Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks for joining us today. Just to reiterate, if you do not have a Uber Eats gift card in your mail account, please go ahead and double check your spam folder, look at your junk mail folder. You should have one in there. In addition to that, just at the end of this, we will have a Kahoot. We've got some questions and we've got some prizes to go out. And then for your, viewing experience, if you go to view at the top, you can hide participants without video. And then it'll just show you the people that are showing video and part of the conversation. So, thanks for joining us today. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about manufacturing for tomorrow. Talk a little bit about what CDW and Cisco have to offer in this arena. Really quickly, I don't want to spend too much time on the agenda. I want to get to the content. We're going to introduce the panelists. We're going to go through some of the trends and some of the challenges. We're going to go ahead and talk about, how organizations are transitioning through their journey. What is Industry 4.0? What does that transformation look like? What we have to offer in the space. And then if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to drop those into chat. If I can't get to them right away, we'll kind of get to them at the end, work them into the conversation. So if you could go ahead and jump to the next slide. KJ Burke, I'm the Principal Technology Strategist for Hybrid Cloud at CDW Canada. I'm going to kind of moderate this and bring the panelists forward. Puneet, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Everyone, good morning, good afternoon. I'm Puneet. I am the Cisco Acceleration Lead at CDW Canada. Looking forward to the discussion.
Great. And then Amin.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Amin Esmaeili, and I'm a Field Solution Architect and a Strategic Advisor for CDW's Hybrid Cloud practice based out of Calgary.
Nice. And then Jason.
Hi, my name is Jason Chung, and I represent the IoT Sales Organization in Canada. Specifically, I support CDW in making sure that we have viable solutions and technologies to answer your day-to-day challenges. And I'm based in Toronto.
Nice. And then Prithvi.
Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon. This is Prithvi here. I'm the Technical Solutions Architect for CDW from the Cisco side. Nice to meet you all.
No, it's good to have all the smart people in the virtual call today. If we go ahead and go to, so when we look at manufacturing for tomorrow, and really, I think we've got good representation of manufacturers here in Canada on the call today. It really is that the technology is becoming more important, and what we're finding is that when you survey the Canadian leadership in IT, we're finding about 96% of organizations are looking at some type of emerging technology, IoT, augmented reality, AI, and machine learning. Almost all businesses and organizations are looking at these technologies to change the way that they do their business. And so there's this technology gap, and where CDW and Cisco, really try to work with customers is to try and help fill some of the understanding gaps and then drive towards solutions with our customers. So here's a quote that I think sort of speaks to that, but really, organizations are looking at these technologies to drive value, and we understand that, and we want to help our customers. If you could flip to the next slide. So some of the challenges that we're seeing, we can go ahead and pop to the next one. Really is that, and you are, our customers and the organizations are really living these challenges, but there's challenges around getting the right people to do the jobs. There's challenges with an aging workforce, a workforce that understands the industry and the machinery and all of the automation and the tools that are involved in that process, and that workforce is aging. And so where a lot of other places, cybersecurity, automation orchestration, Kubernetes and development, those are getting a lot of people to go into those roles. What we're seeing is we're not having as many people move into the roles that are needed to really help industry move forward. And so as we start to talk about, what that means, just know that again, there's as you're seeing and living, there's a lack of people moving into this space, and that's really creating a personnel issue. Looking at the infrastructure, a lot of what we look at with IoT is really an evolution of what's been done, in process control networks, in PLCs and SCADA systems, and the automation and the manufacturing pipelines that have been created. But in order to get to the next level, there's really a need for better connectivity and a need for more interaction with those devices. The complexity of those devices is getting more significant, and that requires more underlying architecture to support that. Now the benefit is as we'll kind of talk about, it addresses some of these challenges. But really, it's the foundational technologies and not having that base infrastructure there that's really causing a problem. And then on top of that, you've got mounting cyber threats. You have more and more these industry environments are the target, and really what cyber bad actors are going after initially, and that shows up in one of the symptoms of that is that continually evolving regulations and the need to really change the way that we do things as a means to try and secure that and work through compliancy, and so not only is the technology getting more challenging, the landscape of deploying the technology, how it needs to be secured, all of those things are adding to this this overall organizational complexity as well. There's a lot of competition in the space, and so one of the drivers here is that there's a competition for people. There's a competition for understanding of the technology, the underlying technology that supports what industry is trying to do, and so I mean, I think I'm sort of talking to things that you're living, but we CDW, Cisco, we see that is a challenge, and so a lot of what we want to talk about today is kind of how we can address those challenges. There's also, when you look at OT and you look at IT, there's been a segregation. I remember working back in mining, the operating technology and teams and the IT teams were two separate divisions. One was part of the actual production side of the mine, and then IT was part of administration and viewed as an overhead. And so having separate teams with separate KPIs and really having the operating technology teams needing something from IT, but that being the dynamic is not necessarily healthy to really get things done. So again, as the challenge really is that as IT teams, we need to be able to support the OT teams better. A lot of times that's through joint projects and as they need again, like connectivity, or they need the infrastructure at the edge that's going to operate. That's really kind of where we start to address that. But just understanding the division between those teams and where we're focused is trying to help IT really bring the technology, bring the message, bring the process, bring the skills to make that work out. So if we could flip to the next slide. So we sort of ask ourselves, what are some of the trends in the space? And what's really interesting is where we're seeing organizations really focus in on these new technologies to drive value. A lot of organizations just don't know where to start. And so if modern IoT and Industry 4.0 is really the means with which we can do more with less, we can really automate those systems, we can provide business value because we're taking those business processes and we're formulating them into a technology pipeline to then solve that problem. What ends up happening is we can solve for some of the challenges we mentioned previously, but we have to invest. We have to have a plan. We have to be able to work through that. So what we're seeing as a trend is that again, 96% of organizations are looking at these emerging technologies, but about 40% just really don't have a place to start. So they've got this goal, but they don't have a practical means. They're not investing in making that goal happen. So we want to leverage technology to really drive more business. Again, whether that's environmental sustainability, whether that's finding alternative revenue, reducing costs, being more efficient. And then with Industrial 4.0, it's also about integrating our cybersecurity posture and making sure that we're addressing those challenges. So there's CDW Canada recently released our security study. security study, one of the key findings out of that is that resiliency is now a key topic among security experts, whether it's data resiliency or whether it's the resiliency of systems, the need for site reliability engineers, and so we're seeing again there's investment needed in some of the IT functions to help OT and Industry 4.0 really drive its value. And then the other thing that's really interesting is it's larger organizations and it's enterprises that are making the investments. Medium and large organizations are really behind on the investment curve. And so, where organizations are global, where they are the largest of the enterprise organizations, that's who's really driving innovation in the IoT space. And what that means is where there's competition with some of those organizations, some of those medium and large organizations are falling a bit behind comparatively to those larger enterprises. And so again, it's the largest organizations are already sort of tapping into this and benefiting from it. So as we look at this, and we're really looking at Industry 4.0, Jason, and we're trying to really move into being successful in this digital transformation. Where do organizations kind of need to start, and how do they build and try to solve for some of these challenges?
Thanks, KJ. I think that's a good place to start a conversation here, and to talk a little bit about Industry 4.0 and how the industry is using technology to meet those business outcomes that you, of all customers, are after, whether it be from driving additional revenue, containing costs, looking for new streams of revenue, or changing the customer experience or the worker experience, or even just meeting environmental sustainability. So the core of what Industry 4.0 is trying to achieve is really leveraging data. So data being the new gold or the new oil. We need to be able to extract and to gain visibility of the operation. And the only way that we can do this is by having the data on the operations itself. So how do we do that? We need to have real-time data from those machines and sensors, but we need to be able to connect those. We need to be able to connect to those things, those sensors, those actuators, those machines, in order to be able to harness or to dig deeper into the data using some either artificial intelligence or machine learning software, or to be able to extract some insights into the operation. Primarily to first, as a first step, to get an idea or a visualization of what is happening in real time, so that you are able to react and to have that agility to make changes when the conditions change, but also to be able to forecast, for example, when your machinery is going to fail. So to get that preventative and predictive and preventative maintenance capability. We know, and you probably also know this better than we do, that every minute of downtime costs, and every minute of downtime in your production line costs a lot of money. On average, our studies have indicated that this is about $10,000 per minute. But obviously, it really depends on the assets that you're producing on your manufacturing line. But it's a lot of money. So what we're seeing in the industry is that there's a willingness to invest in that technology because there is a very quick return on investment, and we're going to get into some of the solutions that we have to offer in terms of what has been validated and what you can pick. Hit the ground running once you start engaging on those initiatives. The other I think key component that we've seen with Industry 4.0 is the convergence of IT and OT, and I think KJ talked on that earlier on, and I don't want to belabor that too much, but it's a really key component or key ingredient in the success in leveraging Industry 4.0 successfully is having IT and OT talk together, but not only talk together, but also work together to address some of the challenges that are one of the things that one of the outcomes that we're trying to achieve out of that convergence between IT and OT is to be able to link the back office ERP, for example, with what's happening on the operations side, right? So that's something that you cannot achieve unless you've got connectivity to your production line and also to the back office with ERP and link all that up with your supply chain.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting point. And I guess what's also interesting there, if you back up a slide really quick, Jason, when I see that, it's also bringing to bear some of the other emerging technologies like leveraging AI modeling and machine learning, and so it's not just about we're talking IoT. It's not just about that. It's also supporting these other business-driven initiatives and bringing it in. And I like the message that you know, IT can kind of extend the olive branch to the OT teams and say, look, we understand you have these requirements. We're planning for them. We're building it into the our goals, and we're going to move it forward. So Amin, as we're looking at, we talked a little bit about some of the challenges. We talked about using technology to overcome those challenges and really driving value, and IT being able to step up and bridge the gap with some of the OT teams. Organizations are. Oh, I'm sorry. Is you still, Jason?
Yeah, it's me. So
My bad. I'll move on to the Amin after this. Sorry. So with digital transformation, how is Industry 4.0 able to move us forward there?
yeah, I think what I want to do is touch on some of the key tenets of what is representative of a successful digital transformation journey. And I think in order for us to be able to harness that data, to get access to the data, to be able to drive or to get insights from the data to drive our operation more efficiently, we need to have a good foundation. And the foundation that I'm talking about is having more network bandwidth on your network, because you're going to have more sensors. You're going to need to access more things on your network. And the reason for that is because you're extracting data from these things, and you're also going to have a heck of a lot of more connected devices on your network. So that scalability is going to be capability is going to be critical to your success. Another key tenet of success is mobility, and foundational to what you need to be able to do is to have connectivity to unmanned vehicles, for instance, but you also need to have connectivity for the mobile worker to be able to have access to the ERP systems, to be able to manage what's happening on the operational systems, and also to be able to control your production line as well with HMIs. Another foundational component is cybersecurity. And as we know, the more that we put onto the network, the higher or the bigger the surface area for a vector surface area of attack. And that becomes a huge issue. So cybersecurity has to be foundational to what you're building to accommodate that Industry 4.0 architecture. You also need to have an infrastructure that is simple, but also scalable. Simple because you want to be able to manage this with as little resources as possible and as automated as possible. So think of these things as foundational to the infrastructure that you need to build. And lastly, edge computing. So don't forget about edge computing, because edge computing is a foundational element of Industry 4.0 in that it allows you to do a lot of the processing as close to the things as possible in order to avoid any kind of delay or any kind of disruption in your operation. And so what are we looking at in terms of Industry 4.0? What are we looking at Industry 4.0 delivering for us? Well, improved operational equipment efficiency And out of the study and the white paper that CDW and Cisco have put together, and you can find this on our landing page. There's a reference link at the end of the presentation. We have identified that 60% of Industry 4.0 adopters have actually told us that they've increased their productivity. And out of those, 50% have been able to reduce their operational costs, and 42% have noted that there's an improved product quality, right? And 13% experience a greater capacity to innovate. And that's important because you want to be able to not only innovate in the areas that are immediate to you, but you want to be able to be positioned to adopt new technologies when they become available down the road. But unless you've got that foundational infrastructure that will support that, you might be hindered, and you might not be able to progress any further. So with that, I'll take it back to you, KJ, for the next next section.
Yeah, I jumped the gun a little bit earlier, but yeah, so with that, it's interesting because a lot of organizations have the benefit of being able to pivot to just delivering digital. And that's kind of a focus for a lot of organizations. With industry, there still is the physical component, and I like what you're talking about there, Jason, because when I think of IoT, I really think of this is the way the digital can impact the physical, and the way that we allow the physical to be impacted by the digital, and that's really, really powerful. So Amin, when we look at organizations and they're trying to move through this, so as Jason points out, if 60% are benefiting and it's boosting productivity, and 50% are reducing their overall costs, 42% are noting there's an improved quality. Obviously, most organizations, they want to boost productivity, they want to reduce their overall costs, they want to deliver a better quality to their customers. Where are organizations kind of getting stuck in the process, and how is that approach to then get past some of those barriers?
To ask, and it's actually quite interesting to see the difference between adoption of IoT in other countries in comparison to Canada. We find that many organizations are contemplating IoT technologies and implementations, but a curious question comes about, and that is, why haven't they done it yet? Well, we found that Canadian organizations tend to take careful, diligent steps when it comes to major changes or implementations. And in the case of IoT, many prefer to first find out how to justify the expense of the new tools, systems, and have a focus on return of investment, right? But as you'll find in CDW's Manufacturing for Tomorrow, the thought leadership paper that'll be referenced at the end of this talk, a report shows that over 70% of companies are piloting Industry 4.0 solutions, but only really 30% are actually capturing the value at scale. And for all the rest, they're kind of stuck in what's been termed the pilot purgatory, where the projects aren't being followed through on. We also know a factor that gets these projects stuck from moving forward is really the lack of business buy-in and support from executives and management. And that's really important. Sometimes even the line workers who will use or manage the systems haven't fully bought into it, and that can present a form of resistance as well. So without commitment by the staff and departments, the value of the projects don't really come through, making it difficult to foster that change and implementation. Of course, there's budget limitations, or viewing the initiative as a science project. That kind of makes it difficult to see it as a project that you want to take through to completion. I want to say that another point is, one of the key barriers of entry into Industry 4.0 solutions or even IoT technology is just knowing where to begin. So what tools, systems, and options to choose from. Whether you're, enabling asset visibility, focusing on data collection, or designing automation, it can get pretty confusing and overwhelming quickly. There's just so many things to choose from. What's going to be your best choice is a question that pops up. And that's because there are key decisions to make that are going to impact your organization and operations. So knowing what you need and taking the right steps to achieve that outcome can be a difficult process. And of course, lack of preparation, using old technologies or legacy systems, and also difficulties with integrations can also contribute to that slower adoption or getting a project stuck or slowing it to a crawl, which we don't want. There are also just a few factors that can present friction in adoption that make it difficult to move forward in the solutioning journey, and that causes organizations to get stuck. So luckily, with CDW and Cisco's expertise, we can help focus you on the right conversations, the tools and systems and options to build out a roadmap that you can actually follow through on without getting stuck in that process, or pilot purgatory, as it's been called.
Yeah, and I just put a stat into chat. One of the surveys that we did, 82% of respondents in the IoT space are leveraging, third parties to help with their journey. You're right, because it's hard. You don't have all of those skills in house. And but a third of respondents said that their partner that they've identified that they work with regularly does not have the ability to come in and help with IoT. And so, yeah, I think, and to touch back on one of the things that Jason mentioned earlier, so much of it is dependent upon the connectivity, and Jason pointed out, needing more bandwidth, but sometimes it's just needing the right bandwidth, especially with, LoRaWAN and some of the alternative options there for IoT systems that don't need to necessarily send a lot of data, or environmental control systems or reporting systems and aren't sending a lot of data. Sometimes it's having the right type of bandwidth available and having that flexibility. But again, having a partner that can step in and help fill in the gaps. The other thing I think is where we help customers is scoping out, KPIs that can really be tracked back to, business goals and objectives. So I think you do a good job of, the business has something they want to do. If IT and the OT teams can align with that, then they can really solve the problem and drive that forward and have something measurable and get investment to continue. So that's good. So talking to Puneet and Prithvi, where are organizations focused so they can get the full value of Industry 4.0? So we talked about the challenges, we talked about what bringing value can do, where organizations can be stuck. But then when organizations are looking to get the full value out of investing in these technologies, what do customers need to get that going? And then Puneet, if you wanted to start.
Yeah, the way I like to approach the conversation is to start with one use case. What's the minimal viable product that creates tangible business value? What's the missing gap right now from a data perspective? Are you not collecting certain data that can really change your operations? And do you have the full visibility into what's going on with your data flows? You want to look at making sustainable decisions, but try not to let scope creep happen where you're thinking that if this solution can't do everything, it can do nothing, you might as well scrap the whole thing. Be open to pivoting, but really focus on what's the business value that I'm getting, and can I monitor all of my data flows so that I can add a layer of security onto it. So you really want to simplify the conversation while considering sustainability and day two operation from the start.
That gets you a good point, Puneet. So I think we can, from a standpoint where I've been working with IoT, what I see is understanding what you have in the OT floor would be a really good start. That kind of gets to understanding what's in there, how can I protect it from preventing it from a downtime. So security could be the key. Or if they're looking at automating and how they can produce things quicker, how can Cisco and CDW help them do that, like by doing a preventive maintenance on the edge or things like that? Or if having a more visibility of products they're building, do they have the inventory, tracking them, asset tracking kind of things can help them maintain that production line running, going through. Or they're building a new plant and they want immediately quick connectivity, right? Like remote access to it, and trying to get that going, running quicker securely is another thing. And then one of the key factors is like having resiliency on their workforce, in the sense of can this plant, like if a switch goes down or something goes down, can this plant still operate and the manufacturing still continues without a downtime, right? So from a security perspective, we look at like, we can only secure things which we know. So we have to understand what's in our OT floor. That's like having that visibility is the key, what's going on. And back to you, KJ.
Yeah, Prithvi, I like that, and I love that we've pivoted to talking about resiliency, because resiliency to me is that proactive addressing of the challenges that we've noted, and then 100% agree. At the end of this, we need insights. You know, the business wants to operate better, and it's delivering insights based upon the data that we can gather out of these tools. So, um,
KJ, maybe if I
yeah.
could just add one little comment here. I think that we've Puneet and Prithvi have done a really great job at explaining what we need in order to get full value of Industry 4.0 of all these targeted points here. But foundational to everything, I think it's very important to understand that at the foundational layer, in order for all of these values to be delivered through either security, automation, supply chain visibility, remote capabilities, or even workplace resiliency, we still need at the foundational layer a way to provide end-to-end network connectivity in a very simple but safe and secure fashion.
Yeah, and I joke when I present to customers, I've got a couple of security slides I put in there. And again, like my background is not necessarily security, but security is so much a part of everything that we have to do. And you're right, it's almost as if we can't do it unless it is secure. Security is just an assumed part of that
It's
process.
foundational, yeah.
And having the security and the tools built into, at a very low level in the technology and into the processes, then just makes it that much easier to be secure, especially as you're trying to build towards, a zero trust or like a NIST based approach to the way that you're securing those environments. And I think that,
And luckily,
yeah.
CDW and Cisco have something to offer in that, with all this in mind.
And that is an excellent transition. So when we look at, customers, what they need to get out of the value. So it is this, it is looking at the automation, it is having the connectivity, it's building that resiliency in there, it's collecting that data and being able to analyze that data. And then as we talked about earlier, it's getting the OT teams and the IT teams to work well together to really, solve business problems so that at the end of the day, the business will sign for the technologies and pay for the solutions that will then really drive that value forward. Um, Jason, how does CDW and Cisco come together to really help move that forward?
Yeah, that's a really good question, KJ. So we wanted to share with you our very close customers here on this call is that Cisco may not necessarily be known for IoT, but just wanted to let you know that at Cisco, we hold the #1 market share for IoT connectivity globally, with 20% of the market share, and that's growing. So we've got the largest market share in the world in terms of IoT connectivity. And the reason why we have that large market share and that #1 position is because we have that rich inheritance of networking, security, edge computing that we've developed over the last 40 years at Cisco on the carpeted space, on the IT side of the house. And what we've done is we've transitioned that technology to a more ruggedized environment where you can leverage that same technology in spaces where you need protection against the elements, right? The extreme temperatures, whether it be high or low, protection against vibration, fog, salt, dust, humidity, vibration, you name it. We've built an IoT portfolio, and this has been around for the last 10, 15 years. But we've made it even better in the last couple of years to answer the industrial IoT capabilities for you, our manufacturing customers. So we've got the IoT technology. We've also developed solutions around those use cases that we talked about, those business outcomes that we wanted to achieve. and we've developed reference architectures for these solutions so that you don't get stuck in what Amin had mentioned earlier on, that pilot purgatory, right? It's trying to start an initiative in digital transformation, get started with IoT, but then that turns into a science project and never gets it takes off from there. And the reason for that is because they've tried to build everything themselves. So those customers that have not been able to exit that purgatory. What we've done to simplify our customers' journey into that digital transformation journey is we've validated those designs and we've documented these in the reference architectures. And Prithvi, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the work that you've done.
Yes, that's a good point, Jason. Before that, I just want to cover on one topic where Amin said some of these projects might have hard time getting the funding approved and things like that. When you have Cisco, the number one networking company, coming into the OT space with all the things they have from enterprise, IT would be really ready to approve that, hey, this is Cisco, I know how to debug and maintain it. So they would be ready to invest onto that. The approval process sometimes but get easy, along with the OT protocols being added to the enterprise class software into our Cisco products. And again, as Jason mentioned, our IoT is not that strong, but we haven't stopped. We partnered with the vendors most OT customers work with, like Schneider Electrical, Rockwell Automation, Siemens, Profinet, Profibus, these kind of folks who are industry number one on their own side of the things. We partnered with them and we architected and designed, validated in our labs, getting their equipment, created a whole solution from all the way from enterprise to the OT floor to a Purdue model, how this has to be deployed, so that this makes our customers and partners leverage those to onboard their solution in a secure, end-to-end secure way, and how they can segment it and things like that, so that the journey is not that difficult and we are here to help you the best we can. That's where CDW comes into their services offerings, and they kind of have a lot of things in their hand, and I would love Puneet to take over and tell a couple of those services they do offer to their customers.
I can actually just jump in real quick and to add to what Jason and Prithvi were mentioning around Cisco's position and market share. I think taking advantage of Cisco and CDW's knowledge and expertise in working with manufacturers can really help you move forward at a much quicker pace. You know, choosing the right tools and technologies along the way. CDW's capabilities and professional advisory and consulting services really give you access to quality resources and experts that are going to help you cover all the necessary bases to make sure that you have proper solutions design and configuration. So, you know, with that, you'll be receiving details on how much you'll be saving, what you can accomplish with less effort, and the benefits that you'll be receiving on your bottom line, while positioning, you know, your organization to compete at a higher level within your market. So, you know, going from security to automation, procurement, deployments, and implementation, CDW can really guide you along to comply with industry best practices and standards. And you know, we really want to help you transition from dreams, you know, to reality and making the projects happen, not just get stuck.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's a really good point, and I think all of you that are on the call today know the strength of CDW. And they've done a tremendous have a tremendous impact on the IT side. I just wanted to call out the CDW has been serving industrial customers for a very long time, and they have a rich history with you guys. But more so than that, they've gone beyond that. They've invested in their enablement in Cisco in terms of IoT, and they've developed, and Julie, if you can go to the previous slide, they've invested in developing several solutions that are already pre-canned. So maybe Puneet, I'll let you illustrate or maybe talk a little bit about those service offerings or canned solutions that you've already developed in collaboration with us.
Yeah, thank you. I think that you know, we like IT. We're an IT company. We do a lot of IT projects with a lot of partners, and we help our customers solve tangible business problems or find opportunities to become more competitive or do things in a different way. And so when you look at how we got into IoT, this was a number of years ago, where we saw our customers wanting to take data, find some intelligence, and really start to do things both on the IT and OT side on how do we make constant improvement and optimizations. And so we do things like executive briefings or the art of the possible as a walkthrough of innovation that we've seen that are tangible. We help make it really easy for you to make sustainable decisions that you can incorporate other use cases in the future, but you can tangibly show the company that you're getting benefits from going this direction, and it is a scalable, secure solution. We introduced the cloud where relevant, specifically at the POC or pilot stage, so that you're really able to get the value with a lower cost footprint before potentially considering what's the future of a platform. A lot of manufacturers are coming to us to help with a digital twin as the more complicated long-term solution to really understand what's the future of their machinery and how can they make sure that they're optimizing how to keep the machine production running so that they don't have any challenges with meeting their demands from their customers. So CDW's really put together a structured way to help add value to the conversation, adding a number of services along the way. So if a battery only lasts for a year and you have hundreds or thousands of batteries all across Canada, we're here to help provide a layer of managed services so that we have visibility onto where they are, helping make sure that you get the batteries ordered to replace them, do it yourself, have our engineers come in and do the replacement, but really make it easy for you to focus on the value you're getting from your IoT project. KJ, is there any other examples that came to mind to you? I know that there's a lot of exciting things we've done, but wanted to see if there's anything that I missed in terms of some of the cool things we've done already.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're talking specifically industry today, but what's really interesting with IoT in a broader context is how, we're able to help customers solve, business challenges that maybe aren't traditional IoT consumers, like more the smart office or the smart city or the smart campus and what can be done there. But fundamentally, it's all about, breaking down a business challenge and finding a solution. So whether that is occupancy in rooms, whether that's janitorial optimization, whether that's smart cameras to help with city parks and cyclist pathways, and I mean there's a lot of flexibility, and that's why I really view IoT as like I said, the real world impacting and creating data, or data impacting the real world. And I just want to do a quick call back to what Jason was talking about, the right equipment for the right job. I remember pulling a switch out of a crusher unit that we had that literally just reduced rock into gravel. And I pulled a switch out of there and I set it down in my boss's office. And when I came back the next day, about an inch and a half pile of dirt had fallen out of that device. And when we went through and revamped all of our networking gear, our underground mine, our processing facilities, the crushers, using the right equipment actually drove a lot of value for us. Heating manifolds that didn't require fans, like just things like that really, allowed us to expect the longevity from the equipment that we wanted. So it's just interesting that that was something that we talked about. So I would say from an IoT perspective, we're seeing a lot of new IoT where it's IoT that's being added to provide a business value, a smart office, smart campus, smart city. And then we're seeing this evolution of the industry and these traditional PLC SCADA types of systems into a modern IoT paradigm where organizations are then able to really optimize what they're doing. And it's like they already have the systems in place, but they also want to add something else. Like we're already monitoring these systems and we've got good data feeds, but we want to add vibration sensors. We want to add humidity sensors. We want to add another environmental sensor for air quality or water discharge or something. So there's all sorts of well, what if we just added this? And by having that additional data, again, better decisions can be made, better insights can be made. And then realistically, IT needs to be there to provide the platform that the OT team can consume. And so, that's the networking, that's the data storage, that's the edge computing. And so that's really where we can help, build help assess and build what that looks like, architect good examples, implement those solutions for our customers. And then, as you point out, do the managed services and help operate those after the fact.
I wanted to add real quick, I think the joy of what Puneet shared earlier and KJ, what you did just now, there's complexity involved, and engaging a team like CDW really takes that burden of figuring it all out by yourself off of your shoulders. Since we have end-to-end capabilities and expertise, our engagement process actually becomes simple, and you'll find yourself in a collaborative environment as you design your journey and receive, top recommendations on how to achieve your outcomes. The conversations are fairly simple, and they revolve around assessing, your current state and understanding where you're looking to go, but also working with you to architect a solution that matches your vision and your strategy, and then implementing it and enabling mechanisms to operate and monitor, its health and performance. So, working with CDW or a team like CDW, you'll receive guidance along each step as you provide your input and your preferences. And it's a really fun process, to be able to see modern ideation and conceptual designs become reality in a short period of time. You're using the best-in-class solutions and practices. So it's best to have that level of support from trusted partners like CDW and Cisco.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think we had on our side before that. I think it was one of the slides that you presented. You, the customer, are focused on your line of business. You know your business like nobody else, and there's nobody else that can tell you how to run your business better. But when it comes down to technology, you don't necessarily have the time or the expertise to go and investigate all the different technologies to find out which is the one that's the best fit for what you're trying to achieve, right? So you know your business well, and there's nobody that can tell you better than you can, and you know what you want to achieve. With these two ingredients, let us help you develop or adopt a solution that can help you achieve those business outcomes. An example of this would be like, for example, if you're trying to find connectivity within your manufacturing line and you're contemplating on whether you should be using 5G technology, Wi-Fi technology, or WiMAX or Wi-Sun or LoRaWAN or Bluetooth or whatnot, I don't think that you want to spend the time to be an expert in 5G, in Wi-Sun and WiMesh, 802.15.4. Let Cisco and CDW help you with that, because we have the strength and the depth and the expertise in those technology areas, and then let us help you select the right technology for the right solution that will answer your business outcome.
Yeah, and then right before, I'm going to hand it off to Puneet here to kind of close this out, and then we've got a Kahoot to share and kind of go through. But absolutely, and Amin does a good job. Like, we have 90 plus solutions architects across Canada, and we can help bridge this IoT conversation plus security, or IoT conversation plus cloud, or IoT conversation plus edge computing. And so again, I think that's where, we'd love to get some of those architects in front of your team to talk about these ideas and help get you through that sort of paralysis, or help you get through that POC purgatory that you mentioned. So Puneet, if you want to close this out, kind of, where do we go from here? How do we engage? And how do our customers start that conversation if they're interested?
Absolutely. So, not to read the slide here, but it's quite simple for us to support you from here. We've created a website, cw.ca/Cisco IoT. We have a white paper, a great video by Amin on there to really get into what else is part of the conversation. What do you need to consider, and how do we help you from there? reach out to your account manager. There's a generic email on the screen right now, but we're here to help. We're here to showcase how you can make sure you can achieve the fastest time to value and really get your IoT project off the ground, adding value, or taking any existing project and adding layers of security or easier management. So reach out to your team, reach out to any of us on the call. We're here to help.
Okay, great. Yeah, absolutely. So, start the conversation. Like I said, we'd love to engage. So absolutely. So if you could, Julie, if you could share the Kahoot information, just so you're aware, there's 5 questions. 5. So if you fall behind